The Republican challenger this fall to Illinois Senior Senator Dick Durbin is a political neophyte. Dr. Steve Sauerberg is challenging the second most powerful Democrat in the U.S. Senate. Who is this doctor from suburban LaGrange, and why is he running? We'll ask him just that. Dr. Steve Sauerberg, welcome to Chicago tonight.
Well, thank you for having me here, Phil. I appreciate it.
First of all, again, as I mentioned, this is the first time you've run for office. Why are you doing it?
Well, I think after 9/11, I, along with many other people, began looking at Washington and politics a little more closely. My children were growing up. It was time to perhaps spread myself out a little bit. And when I looked at politics in Washington, I didn't really like what I saw. And unfortunately, when I saw what Senator Durbin was up to, I was even more disturbed, and that led me to look at this very seriously, and the next thing you know, I was the Republican nominee.
Specifically, what is Senator Durbin doing that's bad, that's wrong, in your opinion?
I think he's on the wrong side of the immigration issue. This was not a gentleman who was willing to close our borders or control our borders as we desperately needed. Someone who likes to tax people. Senator Durbin thinks we need to pay more taxes and have a bigger government. I don't happen to agree with that. I think Senator Durbin socialized medicine. I don't agree with that. And I think he's been on the wrong side of the energy issue as well. So there are innumerable issues where Senator Durbin and I just simply disagree.
Let's start with health care. You've been a doctor your entire professional life. How do you think the health care system needs to be changed or fixed?
I think it needs to be overhauled. I mean, our system is in dire straits. I think we're on the edge of imploding. This system is incredibly expensive. It's full of waste, and it can be fixed by a combination of free market reforms and cost controls that can be put in. It's a fairly significant endeavor to change medical care in this country, but it's something that could be done and should be led by physicians and people in the healthcare industry, and not by politicians and bureaucrats.
You know, some people would say that the free market system is largely what got the healthcare system in trouble to begin with. I mean, you look at the cost, for example. You see it a different way. How so?
I see it a very different way. This is not a free market system. Most of our healthcare right now is paid for by the government, or a significant proportion of it. If you want to look at a free market system, let's look at something like LASIK surgery. Here we started out with a profoundly expensive procedure that was subject to free market principles, and the price of LASIK surgery has come down and down and down and down. It's a free market. People have to pay for it themselves. And sure enough, the free market is working.
Well, I suppose one could make the point that LASIK surgery is elective surgery, and it's not essential in many respects, so maybe the parallels aren't there. Let's not get stuck on that one. Let's move on. The war in Iraq. Is there a need for a withdrawal date?
No, I don't think there's a need for a withdrawal date. I would hope that we would pay very close attention to what our commanders on the ground are telling us and do what is best to ensure a victory there. The surge has worked. There's no question about that. I think Iraq will become a free and hopefully some form of democracy, and hopefully will also, or not hopefully, I believe it will clearly deter terrorism in the area. That's what we need. That's what helps the security of the people of our nation. And so I don't think a withdrawal date is useful at all.
Do you think the decision to go into Iraq in the first place was the right one?
I think, knowing what we know now, maybe it was not. But we had data at that time that was perhaps erroneous, and I think we'd all like to look back and reconsider that decision. But I don't think that's the point. We have what we have, and we have to move forward.
Let's move on to the question of gun control. The Supreme Court overturned the gun ban in Washington, D.C., and that has put at risk other gun bans throughout the United States, including Chicago's. Did the court do the right thing?
Yes, I think the court did the right thing. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I think what we have to do is concentrate our energies on the criminals. Criminals are going to get guns, and criminals are going to use them. If we want to deter crime in this nation, we have to prosecute it aggressively. We have to find these people. We have to put them away and protect the people of our city and our entire state and nation. That's what we need to do.
You say you believe in the Second Amendment. Does government have a role in restricting or shaping the ability of somebody to have access to guns?
Well, sure. I believe, and there's no question, there are people who shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Government has a role. Does it have a role prohibiting everybody from having a gun in a certain geographic area? No, I don't think so.
According to reports, let's talk about the campaign. You have lent your campaign $1.3 million. Is that correct?
That's close, yes, sir.
How much more money have you raised beyond the $1.3 million?
I would think probably $700,000.
So you've raised roughly $2 million at this point.
That's correct.
Do you have enough resources to go head-to-head with or toe-to-toe with Senator Durbin? According to reports, he has raised somewhere in the vicinity of $8 million at this point.
Well, we certainly don't have Durbin money, but we don't believe we have to. We believe we're right on the issues, and we believe we'll be getting more support as time goes on, as people become more familiar with the campaign. You don't have to have the same amount of money to compete. We have to have a certain amount, and I hope we're going to have that. And then we can present our campaign to the people of this state. And so far, we've been very impressed. The people of this state who know about our campaign have been very positive about it, and we're pleased.
And yet, according to at least one poll, Senator Durbin is leading you at this point by more than 30 points. Your reaction to that?
Well, our poll doesn't show that. Our poll shows probably a 17% gap a short time ago, but we also learned from that poll that if the voter is made familiar with the positions of the two candidates, we actually could win.
Well, if it was your poll, presumably, just as Senator Durbin would, in his poll, if it were funded by his campaign, might frame the questions a particular way, it might influence the outcome, I suppose.
Well, I think that's conceivable, but I'm not here to waste your time or anybody else's. I'm here to beat Senator Dick Durbin. I think it's doable. You know, Senator Durbin's popularity in this state is questionable. You can't comment about comparing our troops to Nazis and have the military families of the state of Illinois support you any longer. Senator Durbin has eroded his support significantly. There are a lot of negatives here, and I think he can be beaten. And I think our campaign is started and is well on its way to doing so, and I'm looking forward to the next few months.
The comparison you're referring to was made in reaction to a report by the FBI looking at the practices at Guantanamo. Later, Senator Durbin apologized for his choice of words. Is that apology meaningful?
I think it was a very forced apology. I don't think he was very pleased about giving it. It was a planned speech in the U.S. Senate. That was not an offhand comment. That was not a mistake. That was something Senator Durbin wrote on a piece of paper and decided to say to the people of our nation. And I think there's a tremendous number of people in the state who are very resentful about those comments, and I hear about this all the time.
Senator Obama is expected to carry Illinois, which would presumably help other Democrats on the ticket. Does that put you at a further disadvantage this fall?
Oh, it may well. I think, though, that in an unusual election cycle where change is the watchword, Dick Durbin is not change. 25 years in Washington, never had a real job. Steve Sauerberg, the family doctor, who's here to be a public servant and serve the people of Illinois. That's change.
Has Senator Durbin done anything right?
Sure. Senator Durbin is a supporter of rail, which I think is a good thing. I felt badly that he introduced this last rail bill to help Amtrak out a little too late. I don't know why he did that. There's not going to be any action on it. I think Senator Durbin was right when he suggested that children shouldn't eat lead-painted toys. And people shouldn't eat lead paint. I agree with them 100%. But the reality of it is that Senator Durbin and I agree on a great many things. And I think that's what we want to focus on in this campaign.
Well, last night Senator Durbin was on with Carol Marin, and she asked him about his willingness to debate you on our program, and here's what he had to say.
Your opponent in November, Dr. Steve Sauerberg, is going to be on this broadcast tomorrow. Would you be willing to debate him here on Chicago Tonight?
There will be debates, and it could be right here.
But would you?
Well,
you can sign up right now.
Yeah, I'm
ready,
sure.
You know?
I bet you've got the form for me to sign.
We'll accommodate your schedule. Would you consider it?
I've always debated my opponent, and this is a great venue, and I wouldn't rule it out.
Would you be willing to sign up for a debate here on Chicago Tonight?
Yes. Anytime. Any place.
What happens to your medical practice if you win?
I probably will not be able to practice much, if any. I fortunately have 4 wonderful physician associates and a physician assistant who are working hard right now to make up for the fact that I'm not there a great deal. And the Family Medical Center of LaGrange, which I founded in 1985, will carry on in its tradition of providing fine care to the western suburbs.
Dr. Sauerberg, we're almost out of time, but is there one last thing that you want voters to know about you?
I think I come at this campaign from an unusual place. A situation where I've been talking to people from all walks of life for 25 years about the most significant and important aspects of their lives. That's the kind of people I think that we need to send to Washington to represent us, not people who have been political their entire lives and have really lost their way. And I think this election really provides that alternative to the people of our state. And I hope they'll choose Dr. Stephen Sauerberg for U.S. Senate.
Dr. Sauerberg, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.